I've been hearing a lot about neon films recently, especially on TikTok and Instagram. I decided that I would take all the neon films that I have seen and compare them to books. Go ahead and recommend you some books that are like neon films, only comparing to books that I have read personally. So if you have other comparisons that you'd like to make, go ahead and let me know in the comments. If you're like, oh, actually, I've read this book that is a very good comparison to that film. Secondly, yes, a lot of these books that I'm going to bring up do have movie adaptations or miniseries adaptations. I think all of them I would recommend. So I am aware that they have adaptations of their own. This is just, if you like this movie, read this book. Also, go ahead and remember to subscribe to me. I am a bookish channel. I do some things that have to do with media, such as movies and television, but more so book focused. Also, please enjoy the trailers I'm going to be playing in the background, or half of them. The first one is Longlegs, which I'm going to compare to Penpal by Dathan Auerbach. Longlegs is a more recent movie. It's in Virginia or something. Anyways, this doesn't matter. So it's a woman who is an FBI agent, and she gets tasked with working on a case that is creepy, weird. It involves these families that are being completely annihilated. Then we have Penpal, a man looking back on his childhood and how he ended up with this creepy Penpal person. And it's vignettes of his life throughout his childhood and the interactions he's had with this creepy man. It is terrifying. I am not usually actually afraid while reading books, but this one actually terrified me. This movie and this book, common themes of childhood. They both have really eerie tones. They have some strange old weirdos that have to do with them and children with unraveling mysteries. Personally, Longlegs lightly disappointed me because there was so much hype around this movie. I heard it was the scariest movie anyone had ever seen in their entire lives. I don't think it was that scary. It was pretty funny at times, whereas Penpal actually scared me. I basically couldn't sleep with the lights off. Yeah. Immaculate follows a nun. She moves to another country, ends up immaculately pregnified. Obviously, bad stuff happens. And I want to compare this one to Rosemary's Baby, which we all know has a movie that's very much so a classic. But I think if you didn't love Immaculate, which I didn't really love it, or if you did, Rosemary's Baby by Levin is a great book to read. This one is a pregnant woman living in this apartment building with some nosy satanic cult neighbors. I think that's a great way to describe it, and we're going to leave it at that. Both of them have heavy themes of religion. They both have terrifying pregnancies, and they have to do the vulnerability and control over one's own body. So, Anatomy of a Fall. A woman's husband is either pushed or falls out of an attic window and dies on the snowy ground outside. Her blind child is the one who finds the dead father. It's very much so a court procedural and how the truth is dissected. I want to compare this to Notes on an Execution by Tonya Kukafka. This is about a man on death row for the murder of multiple women, and it follows the women that surrounded his life. 3 separate women, but it also follows him as he's going towards death row. Together, they're both crime narratives that have to do with crime and guilt and the people left behind in the wake of a crime. Very female focused. Relationships as well. So this one is How to Blow Up a, I don't know if I can say this word on YouTube. The poster, How to Blow Up I don't know if I can say this word on YouTube, is about a group of eco-terrorists, and they go to blow up a, you know what? Well, can I not say the blow up part? I don't know. Maybe I can't say the whole thing. Don't question me because I don't know the question's answers. debates the usefulness of environmental activism. Then we have, for the book, The Overstory by Richard Powers. It's a multi-layered novel about humanity's relationship with nature, and a lot of it has to do with trees. It's a fiction book. Well, I said novel, so you should know that. This one has all different perspectives within it, which kind of reminds me of the movie here, because that too is different perspectives on activism. But they both show the urgency of action towards the climate change and environmental protection, showing activists as both individualistic as to who they are, but also their deep commitment to a cause larger than themselves. This is a couple who goes out on a foreign vacation island resort. It's a blocked-in resort that they say, don't go outside of the walls of this resort. They do, and something bad happens, and then it becomes very psychological and hedonistic. It is wild. I want to compare that to You Should Have Left by Daniel Kehlmann. This is a screenwriter who goes to a remote vacation rental with his family. It's slowly, reality starts unraveling. It gets weird. Both of them are wildly trippy and show isolation causing the distortion of reality, with a descent into madness and moral decay for our main characters, with a lot of nightmarish imagery. They're both terrifying and weird. The Infinity Pool, definitely. I was almost afraid to watch this movie, honestly. I finally did, and I watched it alone at night. It was crazy. I love a horror movie, though. But I was scared to watch this. I'm also scared to watch Crimes of the Future. This has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but on we go. So Triangle of Sadness is a dark satire that follows the wealthy elite. It's some rich one percenters on this luxury yacht, small cruise thing that goes horribly wrong and is completely hilarious. It's told in 3 acts. I loved it. And then I want to compare that to Less by Andrew Sean Greer. And that's about a middle-aged author who goes on a world book tour sort of thing, / like all these bookish publishing things, in order to avoid his ex-boyfriend or husband's wedding. There's satires with social critiques. Triangle of Sadness focusing on wealth and power dynamics, while Less focuses on personal failings and aging and middle age specifically. Both are about the absurdity of human behavior, whether it be from Triangle of Sadness with excess and detachment from kind of society in general, because you're so on the top of society that you're detached from reality, basically, or Less with Arthur, just his absurdity of his behavior in general, because he's absurd. And they're both funny. It's just both funny critiques of people and life. Okay, so I felt like this one felt very loose, but now after really thinking about it, I was like, it's not loose at all. So we have Pig with Nicolas Cage. We love Nicolas Cage. This is about a truffle hunter that's trying to get his pig back. It's very John Wick meets a pig. And then we have How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. That is a speculative sci-fi novel that is told in a series of short stories that come together. It tells a story of basically the end of the world, one of which having to do with a pig. Not just that short story ties to this one, but the whole thing does, honestly. And I love this book so much. But the pig story, weeper. Pig, also. Together, they both have to do with loss and grief and the importance of human connection. For Rob in the movie Pig, it is him reconnecting with the world that he has isolated himself from for so long as he goes in search of this pig. While in How High We Go in the Dark, it weaves together a myriad of stories that center on the importance of connection. They have some interesting stories from people in a coma that are are in these bubbles talking to each other, to another one where these children who are dying of different things go to this amusement park that's end of life amusement park. Very strange, sad, and inventive. Okay, I just realized I didn't press play while I was doing this one. This is Palm Springs. We have a Groundhog's Day situation at someone's wedding that involves two people that are reliving the same wedding day over and over again. It's like a dark comedy. And then we have The Husbands. I want to recommend this book for that because it's kind of like a Groundhog's Day situation, but not really. We have Lauren, and she is a single woman that has gone out to a bachelorette party, comes home to her flat. There's some man there. He's like, I'm your husband, you know, but not like that because he's her husband. Then you don't come home to your husband and he says, I'm your husband. She ends up being like, what is going on? And it turns out that men are going up into her attic. Like, this man ends up going up in the attic and another man comes down who's her husband, but it's a different man. So it's like she's switching realities where all these men are her husband, but time's still moving forward. It gets wild. So the two of these movies, what they have in common is the fact that they are dark romantic comedies with sci-fi elements that are semi-rooted in reality. That's not like a heavy sci-fi. And they have a lot to do with the consequences of endless options and opportunities. Also, this kind of self-discovery element. It works. Next is the movie The Lodge. I watched this quite some time ago. So it's a psychological horror where we're following this woman and two children. I think that she's like their stepmother. I can't really remember. And they're stranded in a remote cabin during a snowstorm. Things get really weird. Reality becomes like, what is reality? It is very mind-bendy, trippy. And then we have, I want to recommend, I was going to say like basically any Iain Reid novel, but let's go with We Spread by Iain Reid. This one, we have this woman who has no family. Her partner of a long time, they never got married, passed away a long time ago. She ends up being sent to a nursing home care facility. It's a very small one with maybe 4 other people living there. And she starts to either lose her grip on reality or this place is weird. When comparing these two, I think they have a lot to do with isolation because obviously they're both in very isolated settings, one of which being a cabin in the middle of nowhere and the other one being, and the fact that they can't leave these isolated settings. Sorry, that was my phone. Because with the older woman, it's like she's at a care facility. So where's she gonna go? She's been signed in basically to this place. So how that isolation ends up deteriorating their mental states, causing reality to become less certain, which in turn becomes extreme paranoia because who do you trust when you don't know that your reality is reality in general? It ends up blurring the lines between what is real and what is in their heads. So if you haven't seen Parasite, you need to go see it. It's a South Korean movie that you've probably heard about. I think it's on Hulu right now. I can't really remember. But it's this poor family, the Kims. They end up conning their way into working for the Parks, who are a very rich family. They're making it seem like they're not related. It's wild. So I want to recommend My Sister, the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. This one is Korede's sister Ayula has a habit of killing her boyfriends. This is Nigerian. It ends up causing Korede to have to clean up her sister's messes. It's pretty short, easy to get through, and just strange. They're both darkly comedic, this movie and this book, and they have to do with dysfunctional families and the dynamics and the loyalty that people have to their families, and these people feel like they have to have towards their family. And they both have to do with moral ambiguity, as into what's right and what's wrong. Both are also societal commentaries, one being about wealth and status hierarchy, and the other kind of lightly being about gender and just expectations. So the next one is I, Tonya, which at first I was like, I couldn't possibly find a book to match this one, but I did. I did it. I really thought about it and I did it. So it's a biopic about Tonya Harding and her rivalry with Nancy Kerrigan. They're both figure skaters, figure skating. Infamously, someone ends up breaking Nancy Kerrigan's kneecap or something. It's craziness. It was back in 1994, maybe. So then I wanted to recommend Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. Wow, good job, Rachel. This is a woman goes back to her hometown. She's a journalist and she's writing a piece about all these girls that are going missing and then turning up murdered. Both of them have to do with trauma and abuse and how it shapes and damages people. They both have complex female protagonists that are strong but flawed in many ways, and toxic family dynamics, specifically mother and daughter relationships. Ingrid Goes West. What a good one. This one is about Ingrid, who develops a parasocial relationship with this influencer, social media influencer, Taylor Sloan. And then Ingrid ends up inserting herself into Taylor's life in quite a creepy fashion. And then I want to recommend American Psycho by Bret, Easton, Ellis. That took me a second. My brain was like, what was it again? Anyways, Patrick Bateman is a banker, an investment banker by day in New York City and a serial killer at night. It is definitely horrific and just horrifying book with a wonderful adaptation that you should watch. If you haven't, go watch it. Like, seriously, go watch it. But if you like Ingrid Goes West, you should probably read American Psycho because it is just so close. It has to do with the obsession with identity and social status for both of them. A commentary on that having to do with two people creating specific images through the mask of the self and the person they create to show the outside world. They're both about superficiality and materialism, one through social media and the other through wealth, brands, aka American Psycho through like brands and wealth and business cards and stuff like that. But also they show the emptiness behind those things. And they're both a critique of modern society. So this makes me want to go rewatch American Psycho, honestly. Maybe not read the book because I legitimately puked while reading that book. That's never happened. Well, actually, I think that's happened with one other book. What was that book? I can't remember right now. But I was gagging. Nasty. So lastly, we have The Bad Batch. And this one follows this woman in exile who has to fend for herself in a Mad Max-like world. It's a dystopian, post-apocalyptic. I think they chop off her leg or something. It's disgusting. And then I wanted to compare that to Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation, which also has a really good movie adaptation. That if you've read the book, I've actually heard that some people are like, well, okay, so I've read the book and watched the movie, but I didn't hate the adaptation personally. Sometimes it's nice when the adaptation doesn't fully match, but that's not the point of this right now. Annihilation's about a group of female scientists who venture into this area called Area X. It's kind of this mutated environment that's spreading, and they're trying to figure out what's happening here, what's controlling this. So together they have to do with isolation and alien environments, as I just said, and women fending for themselves and just basic female badassery. So if you like a badass lady, then both of these are going to be it for you. That's all I got to say on that. In the end, I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know if you've read any of these or if you have any further comments about these comparisons or books that you would compare to some of these films or films by Neon that I haven't watched, because these are all the ones I have that you would recommend. So let me know what you think. Thanks for being here. Thanks for everything. I love you as always. Bye.